Okay, five, four, three, two, one. Okay. Good day, everyone. Good day, good morning, good evening. Wherever you are in the world, welcome to another Excel session brought to you by UrBizEdge. For today's session, we're having a special guest by the name of Governor Ajanaku. Okay. His topic is essential technique and best practice using Microsoft Excel. And also this opportunity to announce our new sponsors, our partners, MHS Analytics. For some of you that might be in Canada, might be interested in taking data analysis training in Canada, you're interested in taking training such as Excel, Power BI, financial modeling, advanced Excel, big data, and SQL, and also Python, use it for data analysis. You can also check MHS Analytics. The main motto is basically they're committed to giving the clients the business intelligence edge they need using tools they already have, tools like Excel, Python, SQL, business intelligence, and also financial modeling. So you can also check MHS Analytics online. They're located in Canada. So for some of you that might be in Canada and you want to take data analysis training or data science training or any other related training such as financial modeling, you can also check out MHS Analytics. And for UrBizEdge, we are a registered Microsoft Excel consulting, financial modeling, business intelligence, and also enterprise solution firm in Nigeria. We specialize in helping companies and high-value professionals be on top of the business data. We're also the developer of some Microsoft tools which you can find in Microsoft Office Store, such as the Nigerian Finance Market Analysis tool, which is available in Microsoft Office Store. We're also the developer of the Nigerian Stock Analysis Dashboard and so many other data analytics tools which you can also find in Microsoft Office Store. We're also a training company in our branches in Lagos, Abuja, and Port Harcourt. So for our upcoming training, this is our calendar. So on the 26th of May, we'll be having in-depth Excel training, executive dashboard, and business data analysis. On the 2nd of June, which is next month, we'll be having in-depth Excel training, executive dashboard, and business data analysis. You can also get more information from our website by going to UrBizEdge.com. That's UrBizEdge.com. So UrBizEdge.com. Our special guest, Governor Ajanaku. So he's a data analyst with a background in electrical electronics engineering, that's EEE. He's proficient in Microsoft Excel, Postgres, Tableau, and Arrow, with passion in uncovering valuable insight from data. His ultimate goal is to become a machine learning engineer by applying advanced analytics solutions to solve complex problems and contribute to innovation solutions. So with no further ado, I will stop sharing my screen and hand over the session to Governor. So Governor, over to you. So I'm going backstage right about now.
Okay, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, anywhere you're in the world. Welcome to this session, and thank you very much, Team Dayo and the BizEdge team for this opportunity. So I'm going to share my screen now. My topic today is essential practices in Excel and our best techniques to use. Let me share the entire screen. All right, so we're going to be going through a series of functions in Excel, and we're going to do a data training session at the end. And I think by now, a lot of us might know the importance of Microsoft Excel in data analytics. It's still very, very popular tool right now because you can, because of the scalability, you can easily scale your work, and then it's also very common among organizations. So having knowledge of Microsoft Excel, not just head knowledge, but in-depth knowledge of Microsoft Excel is always going to be a useful tool for any data analyst. And it's also good for people still starting out. At least the user interface is really easy to interact with, and then you can easily find your way around it. But then that being said, I'm going to start off today's session talking about cell referencing in Excel. I'm not sure if the link to the worksheet is already up, but I've dropped a link for the worksheet, so you can just get that link and then be able to follow along. So when we talk about cell referencing in Microsoft Excel, I think it is the absolute fundamental, and I've come to realize that not a lot of people have enough knowledge about it, because cell referencing makes our work exponentially easier. Having an understanding of this, knowing what exactly each thing does, helps you as a data analyst to reduce mistakes, increases your efficiency, and stuff like that. So when you talk about cell referencing, you have two types of referencing: relative referencing and then absolute referencing. So if we're talking about relative referencing, or before I go into the definitions of relative referencing, let me just ascertain our foundations once again. When we talk about a cell reference in Excel, that means the column name or the column letter and the row number that describes whatever cell you're working on. So like now I'm clicking on column L on cell L2. That means column L row 2. So that's the basic definition of a reference. When we're not talking about relative referencing, we mean whenever we use our cell reference in a formula, when we flash fill it into other cells, this formula auto adjusts, okay? It adapts to the location of the data you're working with, right? So when we're talking about relative referencing now, I have this data set that I've prepared, and thank you to my mentor, Mr. Sam, if he's watching this. He has helped me out with this. And we have this data set where we want to calculate the new salary of employees in a fictional company. Right? This is not a real data set, just generated it. And we can see different salaries here and other things about the company employees that you need to know. But we're just going to focus on the salary and then the rates. You can see that different employees have different salaries and different rates. So that means whatever formula we're using on this first row, it needs to adjust based on the employee we're working with. Since this first employee has a rate of 2.5%, and then the next employee has a rate of 12%, that means we need to adjust the rates. So thankfully, we have Microsoft Excel that can do this for us easily. And to calculate the new salary, I already have the formula here. If you look at cell L1, that's the basic formula for calculating a new salary. So that's going to be your old salary times 1 plus the rate. So in Microsoft Excel, when you see 1, most times in calculation, 1 represents 100%. So you are increasing the current rate by whatever rate you are increasing 100% by whatever rate you're using now. So as usual, when you start any calculation in Excel, it starts with equal to, and then the salary times 1 plus the rates. Because this data is already in a tabular format, it auto fills it. But I want us to look out for something. If you click on the first one now, we're obviously getting the right values. Then if you come further down, you can see that the formula is adjusting based on the row that you are in. So that's what relative referencing is about. It's just the basic type of referencing you have in Excel. You don't have to do anything, just drag down or what's not. I'm just going to delete all this down and then try to flash fill. Okay, so you can see that we didn't have to do anything. By default, Excel automatically adjusts to the cells you're working with. Okay, so moving on, we have the next type of referencing called absolute referencing. Now, absolute referencing means we don't want the cell we are referencing in that formula, we don't want it to change at all. Okay, we don't want it to move maybe to the left or to the right. We don't want it to move downwards. Example, in this data sets that we're working with now, we have a fixed increment rate of 8.5% for all the employees here, right? They have varying salaries, but unlike the previous one where each employee had a different rate, this one everyone has to adhere to the 8.5% rate. So before I just explain the absolute referencing, I'm going to solve this now using relative referencing. That means basic formula, nothing changes, right? The old salary times 1 plus our rate. Again, we're getting the right answer. But now if we flash fill, you can see that we're getting a value error. Okay. And that value error is telling us that okay, you're trying to multiply a numeric data type by a text data type. So that's obviously not going to work. If we look at this second row also, we're getting the right answer because you're multiplying by a blank space. So it's going to give you the old salary back, which is obviously wrong. So this is where referencing comes into play, or absolute referencing actually. This is where it comes into play. We want to ensure that this formula that we're using, we don't want this increment rate, we don't want it to move at all. And to absolutely reference a cell, you can use the F4 key on your keyboard. Either you use F4 or you use function plus F4, depending on what your laptop allows you to do. Okay, so for mine, it is function plus F4 key. So I'm just going to input the formula once again. 1 plus the rate. Now, when you are absolutely referencing a cell, if you press the F4 key once, this is what happens. That means you're restricting the movement of the cell completely. You don't want the row to change. That means you don't want it to go from row 3 here to row 4 to row 5, or even upwards to row 2. And then you don't want the column letter to change. You don't want it to go from column F to column G or column F to column E. So when you're absolutely referencing it and you press the F4 key once, I think from now, I just call it locking. Okay, you're locking the cell. So once you lock your cell once, or if you press the F4 key once, you're locking the cell completely. If you press it twice, now you can see that the dollar sign, which indicates referencing, absolute referencing, you can see now is now in front of 3. That means you're locking it to the third row. You're allowing movement to different columns, but within that row. So this F3 now, no matter where we go to, it cannot go to row 4 or row 5 or to row 3. Everything is going to do now is going to be between column A to whatever column Excel ends at on this row. And if you press it for the third time, you can see now that the dollar sign appears in front of the column name, which is column F. What this does is you're locking it to just column F. Okay, so it can go upwards or downwards, but within this column F. But for this example, it's not necessary to just complicate things. You can just lock it once, and then now once we flash fill, we can see that the salary here is still multiplying by the increment rate there. So you can see the importance of absolute referencing here now. It's obviously reducing our errors and then increasing efficiency. I also once had a situation where I had to build a multiplication table using just row numbers 1, 2, 3, like that. I said input only just one formula that's going to solve the entire multiplication table. So this is a simple application of references that everyone can just try in their own time, play around with it. Okay, and I think I have another example here to explain referencing better. Okay, so usually you have a third type of referencing called mixed referencing. Okay, in mixed referencing, you're combining relative referencing and absolute referencing, right? But in this example now, it is not, I won't say I'm using mixed referencing, but rather I'm using variations of absolute referencing. Like I said earlier, depending on the number of times you press your F4 key, that's going to determine the type of absolute referencing you're using, whether you want to lock it completely, or you want to lock just the row, or you want to lock it to just that column. So now we can see, if we look at the third data set here, we have different salaries again for different people, but then 3 different increment rates for federal, for Senate, and then for NLC. So for federal, you have increment rate of 8.25%, and then for the Senate, you have increment rate of 10%. For NLC, you have increment rate of 12%. So we want to write the formula here such that once we drag this formula from here to this side and then downwards to autofill, those are formulas which is sufficient to give us the right answer across board. Okay, so now let's just use an example with normal referencing, no absolute nothing, just let's see what we're going to get. Again, our formula was 1 plus the rates. We drag this, you can see now that we're starting to have errors because the salary here, the answer here is obviously correct. The first cell is always correct. But if we move on to the next cell, you can see now it's multiplying the salary of the federal by the rate of the Senate. And if it comes to the third one, it's multiplying the salary of the Senate by the rate of the NLC. So obviously there's a mistake there that we have to correct. So now that's where good knowledge of referencing comes into play. So how to manipulate this formula such that the salary cell, which is 100,000 in this case, I don't want it to be able to move horizontally. I want it to move only downwards. Okay. So if I want it to move only downwards, that means I want to lock it to the column. I want to lock it to column G. Okay. And then the increment rate here, I want it to be able to move only horizontally from left to right, but it should not be able to move downwards. So whenever I try to flash you downwards, I'm not having a situation whereby I'm multiplying text by number and then getting a value error or some sort of error like that. So from our base knowledge now of referencing, since we established that I want to lock the salary column, well, I want to lock the salary cell to just column G. So click on that cell and then F4 3 times. So you can see the dollar sign now in front of column G. That means we've locked it to that column. Okay. Times 1 plus our rate. Again, like we established before, we want the rate to move just horizontally, no vertical movement. That means we're locking it to the row. And this rate is on the third row. So we're locking it to the third row. And we're going to press our F4 key twice. So now if we fill it. Okay, so let's verify our answer. Now in the Senate column, we can see the salary here highlighted with blue. It's multiplying by the rate of the Senate, so that's correct. The NLC salary here I highlighted in blue is also multiplying by the NLC rate, so that's correct. Let's come downwards, see if I have something correct. Okay, we're in the federal column once again, and then you can see the salary, the correct salary, multiplying the right rates for the NLC. Correct salary multiplying the right rate. So we can see this has saved us probably 20-30 minutes of trying to ensure you're not writing the wrong formulas and then scrolling through your data set to ensure that there's no error. So that's where an understanding of referencing comes into play. And please, by the way, if you have any questions as we go along, you can just signify and then we'll attend to the questions. Okay, moving on. I'm going to move on to some functions that you can use to manipulate data. We're going to treat some basic functions like sum if, average if. If some of us already have experience with SQL, you can your sum if, average if is basically like you're grouping your data sets. All right, and I'm going to use this data set in front of me to just explain the sum if function. So again, equal to sum if. The Excel definition of sum if says you add cells specified by a given condition or criteria. So it's important that when we want to use our sum if, once we know the criteria we need, like now I want my criteria to be gender. Okay, so it's important that we remove our duplicates before working with that criteria. If we see now the sum if function, it takes two compulsory arguments, the range, all right, it takes the range of the cell and then the criteria, and then what cells do you want to add based on that criteria you specified. It's going to make a little more sense in a while. Like I said, whenever you're sure of the metric you want to use, go back to your table, highlight the entire thing, copy it, and just find any random space on your worksheet, paste it, and then we have to remove duplicates. So to remove duplicates now, we go to the data tab. You can see it in the data tools section, remove duplicates. leaves us with two unique values. Or you could also use Alt AM for people that enjoy working with shortcuts. Alt AM. So that's another shortcut for removing duplicates in Excel. And then you're going to get the same thing. Okay, fantastic. So we basically have that here already. Our agenda. So we want to calculate the sum of the old salaries for the female employees in this company. Okay, and then from there we'll be able to compare it to that of the male employees. Again, as every formula, you start your equal to sum if the range, where we got our criteria from, we're going to highlight the entire thing, right? So you can just, what I did now, 1 second. So I like the range. You can come to the first cell here, then Control plus Shift plus your down arrow, highlight the entire range there, and then Control plus backspace to go back to the top. All right, and then the criteria. We've already removed our duplicate. So once for female employees first, and then our sum range. Since we want to get the salaries for all the female employees, then we come here again, highlight the salary column. So take the first cell there, and then Control plus Shift plus down arrow, Control backspace to go back to the top. So we have our formula here now. Press enter. Okay, we can just format this effectively, convert it to currency because we're working with money. So $467,000. And then instead of typing the same formula again, you can just flash fill. But now there's an error somewhere. Why? Because this way referencing is important when you're working with data. You can see that our range has shifted downwards. You see the blue highlighted here and then the purple. Okay, in the case of this data set, we might be fortunate because this female now is not going to affect that of the male. But for precision and accuracy sake, it's important that we limit the movement of these. It's important that we limit the movement of the range. Okay, so we have to go back. We have to lock it. So I'll just delete that and then come back here again. You can go inside there and then try to lock it absolutely, but that's going to be a bit time consuming. I'll just type the entire thing again. Select my range, lock it just once. I don't want it to move at all, not left, not right. I don't want it to move at all. My criteria, okay, now one can be flexible. And then the salary range, also select the entire thing. I also do not want this to move at all. I lock it once, close my brackets. All right, so now you can see that the formula has been applied correctly. Although the mistake we made before it didn't have any change on the value, but it's important that we ensure the precision of our work. Right? I'll move on to the next function, which is the average if function. All right. So now the average if function is also another important function for manipulating data in Microsoft Excel. And it's one that data analysts are going to work with a lot because we love to get average values, of different things. So average if just simplifies life. You're basically grouping by and then trying to find the average. So for average if, let's see what the Excel definition is. It says you find the arithmetic mean for the cells specified by given condition or criteria. So very similar to the sum is also. And what's the syntax of the average if? The average if also takes two compulsory arguments: the range, the criteria, and then the average range. Okay, the average range tells us that, okay, like in sum, if we had the sum range. So now, what values do you want to get the average of? And in our case, we want to get the average salary for the female gender and then for the male gender. So we're just going to go back into our little space here. First, to average if. Just scroll sideways to make it more visible. Average if range, what's our range? Control shifts down, then control backspace to go upwards. Let's remember referencing is very important to lock it. So I'll lock that just once again. My criteria, check for female first, and then the average range. I'll check for their average salaries. So control backspace again to go upwards and then lock it. Mark this to the um, right type, so currency because we're working with money, and then flash trade. So you can see that for this company, very strange dynamic, funny enough, because from here, as analysts, you have to be looking out for stuff like this. The female employees in this company, they are earning less, so their average is higher than the male employees. So any woman might want to work in this kind of company because of the higher average salary. So these are things you have to look out for. The analytical mindset is very important, even beyond knowing functions and then tools for it. The analytical mindset is very essential. Okay, great. So that's the first part done. I'm coming to another function called sum ifs. Now, for sum ifs, it's just like an extension of sum if. In sum if, we want just one criteria, right? But sum if it allows us to find our answers based on multiple criteria. Like now already created some things I want to look out for. I want to say, okay, for each department and whichever gender I select, let's do this. Just create this again quickly. Then current salary, good. Now for each department and whichever gender I select, I want to see the sum of I want to see the total salaries they're collecting. Okay, and then for this kind of operation, I found it useful to use data validation techniques. Okay, so in data validation, we're trying to just limit what kind of data can be filled into the cell. Okay, we're going to see that as we go on further. Like I said, whenever you want to work with these functions, it's important to highlight the entire thing. And then place this somewhere safe. Right. Okay. And then we remove the duplicates. So Alt AM, lot shortcuts in speed of my work. You can see that we have 5 unique departments. And then my second criteria, I want it to be the gender. Already did something similar before, but just do it again for emphasis sake. Control C, control backspace. I'll paste this here. Remove the duplicates again, Alt AM. Okay, great. So now I want to do that from these 5 departments. Whenever I select any department and I select any gender, I want it to show the current salary. Okay, so now we're going to employ a data validation technique. So once the data validation tab, once you go to data and then around there you use data tools. Okay, sorry, I forgot to mention I use Office 365, so it might be a big difference for people using Excel 2016. But I think people using Microsoft Excel 2021 should have a similar interface. Well, I'll assume that our data validation tab is under data tools. So you go there. So our validation criteria, we want a list, right? And what's the source of that list? For departments, we're going to highlight this one that we already removed the duplicates from. Okay. By default, Excel references is absolutely locks it, no movement. Okay, fantastic. We'll have our list here now. And then for gender, we're going to do something similar. Data validation. What kind of criteria do you want? You also want a list, the source, one of these two. Okay, so let me just pick ICT and then female. Great. So now, some is. You can see some is allows as many criteria as possible, but we have to ensure that we're not using too many, to not confuse ourselves or just lose track of what it is we're doing. So unlike some if that the sum range comes last, here the sum range comes first. So just Control Shift space down, Control Backspace, and then lock it completely. No any movement. Our criteria range 1. These are our first criteria, the department, right? So now the criteria range is in our data table. This is our data table. Okay. Select all of that and then lock it. All our first criteria be ICT. Criteria range 2. Come here again. Gender is our second criteria, so lock that one also. Our second criteria, I'll select is here, gender. Okay, so you can see 100,000. We're going to use the right formatting here once again. So this should change based on how we change. You can see it's dynamic already. It's dynamic. I see in production department, 96,000. That's total salary of the male employees there, and then 43,000 for female employees. The total salary might not be a good measure of what's going on in the department, but if you not conduct analysis, it's up to you, to determine what you need. But these are the essential techniques that I've covered so far. Covered sum if, average if, sum ifs, and you can use the same thing for average ifs. It's always good practice to hide. If you're not a fan of deleting stuff, you can just hide your data sets when you're done. This part where you remove the duplicates. If you're not a big fan, but because I already did something over here, I'm not going to hide it. But if you're working on your own, it's good practice to just hide it. Okay, moving on. I'm going to one of the most important functions in Microsoft Excel for the data analysis, lookup function. So there are different types of lookup functions. You have VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, you have index and match, and then recently you have the XLOOKUP. I think the XLOOKUP is available for people using 365 and then Excel 2021 upwards. But I'm still going to explain a bit of that. So now, when you're talking about VLOOKUP, it basically means vertical lookup, and it allows you to search for a value in the leftmost column of a table, and then you retrieve a corresponding value from a specified column within that table. Okay, I'm going to break down that definition to help for us to make a little more sense of it. Now, this has been the biggest issue with VLOOKUP. The value you're looking for always has to be in the first column of your lookup table, right? So this is our data table on the left. This is our lookup table on the right. So VLOOKUP, your data that you're looking for always has to be the first column. I think I remember trying VLOOKUP some time ago, and then I was just getting error. I was like, my formula is absolutely correct. What is going on? What is going on? It was later on down the line that I realized that I wasn't trying to get my value from the first column. So whatever range you're highlighting has to be from the first column. So to use VLOOKUP in Excel now, I want to populate this table. You can see here we have name, the commission rates, and then the region. So I want to use that lookup table to populate the data table on the left here. We have different names. So we want to find their commission rates and then what region they are operating from. So VLOOKUP makes it very easy. VLOOKUP takes 3 compulsory arguments. The lookup value. So remember I said you have to look for your value in the leftmost column. So this lookup value is the value you have to look for in the leftmost column, right? So we want to look for this value. in the leftmost column. The table array now says what's the array of the table, like what range of cells do you want to use for this VLOOKUP operation. And remember that our lookup value has to be in the first column or the leftmost column of that range of cells. We are just going to select this entire table. You can see our lookup value is somewhere here. We're going to select that table array, and then again, reference is very important. Just lock this once, no movement at all. Then the next argument that VLOOKUP takes is column index number. The column index number is basically the number you want to retrieve from that data table, all right? Or the data you want to retrieve from the value you want to retrieve from the data table. What column is it in? So for this first exercise, you want to retrieve the commission rates of these people, and you can see that it is in the second column. So we just press 2 there. And finally, Excel asks us, do you want an approximate match or do you want an exact match? So false stands for exact match, true stands for approximate match. So you can represent them with 0 or 1. Okay. I want this. You can see now. We use VLOOKUP now to get this rate. To get this rate from this table. If we flash fill, all right. For this person named Omowumi, the commission rate of 4% is accurate. Yes, that's accurate. So at times, I think VLOOKUP is useful when you have data set that is not too large, although it works for larger data sets, but it's just advisable to use better functions, maybe like index and match if you're skilled to that extent. But VLOOKUP it gets the job done and pretty quickly, so if you have an understanding of it. But like I said earlier, your lookup value has to be in the lookup, has to be in the leftmost column of your lookup table, or else you're going to keep getting an error. Okay. Let's find the region that each of these people will operate in. Again, VLOOKUP, our lookup value, and then the table array, ensuring that our lookup value is in the leftmost column. Now we're looking for the region. So according to this table array, the name is the first column, the rate is the second column, and then the region is the third. So we're going to put 3 because we want to populate the region. And then do you want an approximate match or you want an exact match? Want an exact match? Not. So with this Excel, we can just flash fill. There's a mistake somewhere. Okay. I forgot to lock. Let me just show that once again. Not available, not available. So you can see the importance of referencing in our Excel work. Log this once, no movement at all. Okay. And from there, flash fill easily. So we use VLOOKUP to populate this table. If you have larger data sets, you want to do, you can use it as many times as you want to just speed up the process of populating your table. Okay. And then XLOOKUP for people that have it. XLOOKUP is basically, it basically allows us to, combine vertical lookup, that's VLOOKUP, horizontal lookup, this is HLOOKUP. Basically allows us to combine into 2 ones. And there are certain differences between XLOOKUP and VLOOKUP in Excel. XLOOKUP now can return a different range. It can return more than one value. Okay, instead of having to populate the rates first and then the region next, we can do both at once with XLOOKUP. Also, your lookup value doesn't have to be in the first in the leftmost column of your lookup table. So let's just quickly see how that works. XLOOKUP. Want to look for this value. It takes quite a lot of arguments, but there are just 3 compulsory ones. Now your lookup value, where do you want to look it up? In your lookup array. Lookup array means what range of cells has that lookup value. You can see just the first column here. Let's lock it. And then the return array. What values do you want now? We want both the rates and then the region. Let me go back into this. Love that. Then I see. Wonderful. At once. And to yeah. I don't know why I didn't flash fill, but usually, yeah, you can see just at once saved a lot of time and stress. XLOOKUP, very wonderful function, and thank you to Microsoft for just bringing that up. Before we finish with lookup, I'll just check the application of lookup once again. All right. Remember, I said out of the last argument that your VLOOKUP takes is what exact match or approximate match. So we're going to see the use of approximate match here. Okay. So the business problem says you should find a way to link each manager to a particular company product. So we have 5 managers in total: A, B, C, D, E. Again, analytical mindset of the data analyst, very, very important. It's probably the most important skill. So how can we link each product to each manager? We see here the company code starts with a particular letter, right? And I can see that that letter we have a range C, B, E, A, B, and that's about it. So obviously it covers the 5 managers, A, B, C, D, E, each of their codes. So it tells me that the first letter is what we're going to use to link each of these managers to the products name. Again, you can just use VLOOKUP. Our lookup value, the table array. Our lookup value now, we're looking for only the first letter, but that's where we're going to make use of approximate match. And we're ensuring that it's on the leftmost column. Okay. Remember to log this. Then we want the names of the manager. The names are on the second column. So 2. You want an exact match or an approximate match. If we use an exact match, it's very likely that we won't get the answer because this lookup value doesn't exist here. But if you use an approximate match, Excel is smart enough to understand that, okay, it's smart enough to relate this company code to ABCDE that we have here. So we want an approximate match. You just use true or 1. And we say right there. So C, first value C, and then the name of the manager, Sam. Next value here, E, Trey. So I see the beauty of VLOOKUP. So approximate match, exact match. You don't know when you're going to need them. So it's just very important to have an idea of the two. Okay, so very quickly, we're just going to practice what I like to call the nightmare of data analysts, data training. You always say you spend most of your time, or for data scientists rather, I say you spend most of your time or 1.5 of your time cleaning data, because the cleanliness of your data determines the accuracy of your results. Why data cleaning is important can never be overemphasized. Again, when you see messy data, at times it even discourages you. You don't want to dive into it or analyze anything. Unlike in courses where they feed us with super clean data, and we think, well, in the real world, found out that it doesn't work that way. So why is it important for us to clean data? It makes our data very easy to read and to interpret. Anybody can just pick it up and then get a hang of what's going on there. Also, usually data is gotten from multiple sources, so it helps to ensure consistency in the formatting of the data, right? And then finally, or the most important aspects is what getting accurate results. Like I said earlier, the cleanliness of your data determines the accuracy of your results. I'm just going to check things. Okay, I just hope there's no issue so far. Just 1 second. All right. Right. So let's dive into this data set now. I think straight away we can already see blanks, and having blanks in your data set makes your analysis tougher. For example, you want to highlight this data now. I see it stops at where it stops at the row before the next blank row. You come here, the same thing. So you can't even highlight the entire data set. So all these blanks you need to get rid of them. So you can just quickly use this trick. Um, Highlights from the top of the column name here. Okay. So now to delete our blank rows in Excel, you can just come to find and select. Go to special. Gives us a plethora of options here. So once blanks, all right, and then click OK. Now it has highlighted all the blanks in our data sets. And I forgot to mention before you start cleaning data, especially data that is not your own, or even if it is your own, it's good practice to just make a copy of the data sets. So I'll just make a copy of this quickly. I move to the end, create a copy. All right. So that will be backup in case anything goes wrong with this one. Next, we've highlighted the blank rows. Then we want to delete those rows that actually have blanks. Hold on. Okay. I'll just put Control Z there. We go to delete. I almost made a mistake. I clicked delete sheet. If you click delete sheet, you're going to lose the entire data. So be careful not to do that. So just delete the rows that have been highlighted. The rows have blanks. Delete the sheet rows. Okay, great. So now we no longer have blanks in our data set. Next, I'll see what kind of stuff should I look out for here. I see the album names, the artist, the genre, the subgenre, the total sales. Sales should be the currency value. So I'll just change this quickly. I'll format it correctly. Okay, fantastic. Right. From here now it's a bit difficult to tell if there are duplicates here or anything. But before I go into looking for duplicates, I can see some rows here. This Miles Davis. This one seems repeated already. You can already see duplicate value. So yeah, we can just highlight the entire sheet now. Let's remove our duplicate values because they disturb our analysis. They just ensure that we're getting wrong values. So remove duplicates or Alt AM, data ZAs, and okay. So we have 501 unique values left and 2 duplicate rows have been removed. Fantastic. Now let's go into the usage of text functions to just clean data. Right from here now, we can see the name here is not properly formatted. You can see some spaces and stuff like that they don't make our data appear tidy. So I'm just going to take care of that quickly. There's a function in Excel for removing spaces, leading spaces, trailing spaces. It's called trim. So before I do that, I want to format this row. So I'll just insert a column here to the left, right? So I'm going to use this column now to clean the data on this column. Remember, I said I want to remove the spaces. Use the trim, removes all spaces from text string except for single spaces between words. Remove the space here. Okay, great. Then flash fill. So we can see now that everything is just automatically formatted to the left, like all text values should be in Excel. Now copy this here because we're working with artists. All right, next thing I want to do, I want to ensure that the names they are properly formatted, right? What do I mean? So there are some text functions or I call them a cluster of text functions. First one is upper. Next one, let me just insert this quickly to show you. So you have upper. Upper now converts the string to what? Uppercase, like this. For this one, you can replace it with lower, depending on your taste. First work with lowercase, you can do the same, and then finally we have what's proper. Proper make sure that the first letter of every word is what is taken to uppercase. So I found out that for name values, it's better to just use proper. I'll just delete this because I don't need it. So you can just mask or nest your function here. Proper, and then the trim values, you want them to appear in the brackets. And then we just slash fill. So you can see this Bob Dylan here has been correctly formatted with this. Nirvana, that there was a leading space, has been converted to this. The leading space here has been converted, and then all right, we are good to go on that end. So now, if I were to delete this row now, let's just imagine I did this. You can see we have a reference error, and we cannot keep the two columns. The reference error here means you're referencing a cell that doesn't exist anymore. So there's a way to go around that. You can just highlight this entire column, copy it, right? And then we go back to the home tab. We want to paste it, but we want to paste it in a special way. Okay. So come here, come to paste special. We want just the values. If you're pasting just the values, that means all the formulas you used before, it gets rid of them basically. And then it leaves only the values, properly formatted values. So we want just the values. Okay. So if you look at this now, it has just the name, no values, nothing anymore. But like I said, I love working with shortcuts. So I'm just going to tell you a quick shortcut for pasting special. The way to use Alt H D D again to have the same output. Remember, I said Alt AM to remove duplicates, and then Alt HVV to paste special. So you can just delete this if you want, or if you prefer to hide it. I think I prefer to hide it. Right. Now just quickly show us something again. This genre, I'm seeing hard rock. I prefer to see it as rock. So I just come here, find and select again. Look for hard rock. And replace it with rock. Okay, made 351 replacements. So that's it, perfect. So now we just done a little bit of data cleaning, and then we can see that our data is in the right format. Okay, add something else, but since our time won't permit us to go further, so yes, I hope everyone will be able to learn a thing or two from today's session. I just please, if you have any questions, just signify, please. Answer them.
Awesome. Can you hear me, Governor?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, okay. So I had to switch laptop. I don't know. I was having glitch or something. Okay, so awesome section. If you have any question, please you can drop it in the chat box. If you have any question, and also I actually like the shortcut you use. Like I'm actually a big fan of shortcuts, so it actually saves a lot of time. So if you have
Yes.
any question, please can you drop it in the chat box. Okay, so while we're waiting for questions, I will ask you two questions, which I already asked you earlier today. So can you tell our audience how you started your old data journey? And question number two will be, what advice do you have for people just starting out in the data space? So how you started your data journey, and also what advice do you have for people starting out in data space?
All right, perfect. I think my digital journey started maybe about 2 years ago, but then I wasn't conscious of it. I was working in a microfinance bank then, and a lot of my work involved using spreadsheets. And I just kind of ditched that. But mid last year, I was having a discussion with some of my friends, and someone mentioned data science. I went to research about data science. I saw the programming, everything. I wasn't even a fan of it. I just okay, no way. This is not for me. Then I saw data analytics. I was like, okay, it's not as programming intensive as the other ones. So this might be a good area to start out. And considering my background in electrical engineering, solving problems, being inquisitive and stuff like that. So it was just a really good fit. So from then, from about late August or something, I just picked it up. I was intense with my learning, and so far this is where we are. And then concerning your second question, what advice would I give to people just starting out? The biggest issue newbies face is information overload, because you see a lot of resources online, a lot of roadmaps. Become a data analyst in 30 days, become a data analyst in 3 weeks, all those things. My advice is just to ignore them. Look for someone that has been through this. Ask them, what path should I follow? And if they give it to you, I know it's going to get boring along the way, but you just have to be consistent. Have the courage to show up every day. That's what really matters. Stick to your own path. There's always going to be something new to learn. And at the point, you even feel discouraged. You know so much, but you feel like you don't know anything because you are using someone else's timeline for yours. So I just advise you to focus on your own path, and then hopefully everything turns out really good. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I will also say, try building projects and having a portfolio also helps a lot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, so my out of is outside the discussion, right? Okay. Okay, so someone said thank you, especially like the data cleaning at the end. How do you have specific okay? How you have specific example for both? And okay, what to do and what not to do. Okay, so someone is actually saying thank you. That's Jennifer. Said thank you for
Right.
the data clean at the end, and which is actually very cool.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so I think is there another question? Is there another question? If anyone has any question, please drop in the chat box. Drop in the chat box. Because we should be closing in less than 2 minutes from now. Okay. So my own question is kind of funny though, but the engineering did it help you go easily into data space, or it was more like an advantage to your what?
Okay, I'll say it's an advantage in some sense because you're kind of used to seeing numbers, large numbers, and it doesn't really face you compared to someone that really enjoy mathematics or anything coming up. So for me, it might have made the transition a bit easier in terms of acquiring knowledge at a very, very great speed, kind of thing engineering requires. So yeah, it might have been a
Okay.
slight advantage, but really with hard work and consistency or just
Yeah.
it's there's no advantage even blow out of the water. So the background
Yeah.
not really important, but that's his own bit. Yeah.